the legend of St. Brendan the Navigator. And he was an Irish monk who lived around 550 AD and made an epic 7-year voyage that took him from the west coast of Ireland to Newfoundland, possibly making him the first European to travel to the New World. So I've been studiously researching the chronicle of his voyage, studying it in the original Latin, and I wanted to share a few excerpts of that with you. It's a little bit rough going, but I know you're a very erudite audience here at Emory. But unfortunately, I left my notes at the hotel. So I'm going to have to try to reconstruct this from memory. So if you can imagine yourselves going back in time, back some 1,500 years, to find yourself on the west coast of Ireland in the company of 14 monks, brave souls all, and their fearless leader Brendan, preparing to embark upon an intrepid voyage across the stormy North Atlantic Sea. So the monks jumped in their boat, and they began to row, and as they rowed, they sang a song. So the monks rowed and chanted and rowed for some 3 long years, until one evening, just as the sun was beginning to set on Christmas Eve, they spied land. So the monks rowed their tiny craft up onto the island, jumped out of the boat, danced a wee cheeky jig, and lit a fire to cook their Christmas feast. The monks threw an albatross in the pot, and just as the albatross meat was getting tender and beginning to flake off the tiny avian bones, the monks realized that they weren't camped on an island at all. In fact, they were camped on the back of a whale. And the whale wasn't too happy about it. So they jumped back in their boat, and they began to row. And they rowed and chanted and rowed for some 2 long years, until one evening, just as the sun was beginning to set, they spied land. Well, this time, folks, in fact, they had reached land. They reached the eastern coast of Canada and Newfoundland. So they rowed their tiny boat up onto the beach, jumped out of the boat, and ran to the nearest Tim Hortons for coffee and donuts. Coffee always fresh, donuts all around. And powered solely on those delicious donut holes, they made it back to Ireland in a record 2 months, becoming the stuff of legend and the inspiration for this next tune, which is called The Wonderful Sea Voyage of Holy St. Brendan.